Ladies and gentlemen, please notice that exits are conveniently located at the front and rear of this auditorium. When leaving the theater, we suggest that the exit at the front of the auditorium will allow you easier access to the parking areas. Thank you.
They know the ins and outs of everywhere we're going. They will protect you. Horses, run! And they just like, fuck. I was like, what?
I feel like I got a great break on a used car. I thought that was a great quote.
This is war, Marcus.
He's going to the bathroom. Are you in his house, you little psycho? Oh, get out of there.
Look, it's a giant womb.
Yeah, no.
Hi, I'm Mike Field.
I'm Mike Butler.
And you're listening to the Forgotten Cinema Podcast. Each episode, we highlight a film that, for a variety of reasons, was forgotten by audiences. Whether it be because a more popular movie was released at the same time, or the movie simply didn't catch on with an audience in its initial run. We'll discuss what we love about the film, or perhaps don't love about it, but we'll always recommend you revisit it. If you enjoy our podcast, we want to hear from you. We're on Instagram and Facebook. Find us. Our podcast is available on all platforms with a backlog of 150 plus episodes for your listening pleasure.
Woo!
What? Stop wooing. Stop. That's nobody likes the woos.
Nobody
has ever come up to me and said, "Hey, when I listen to your podcast, really enjoy the woos from Butler." Nobody says that. So stop with the woos. Oh, sorry, I hurt your feelings. What are we doing today?
We're doing the podcast about Popeye. We're doing the Popeye movie. We're doing the Popeye. Popeye's the movie we're doing.
Please don't be doing that the entire episode, because this episode will be a quick one.
We're doing the 1980s Popeye. 1980 Popeye, an American musical comedy directed by Robert Altman. That's a terrible synopsis.
Wow.
Oh my God. Google finally failed me.
Well,
okay.
one would suggest that maybe you didn't prepare in time. Maybe your preparation failed.
Google is always ready. I saw the IMDb wasn't good, so I just went right to Google.
Well, a lot of times, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people in the business will double check and make sure that what they're going to say is ready to go.
So why would they do that?
Because that's called being professional. That is being professional.
Silly.
That is why we will fail.
What? All right, I'm going to start this one because the sentence makes me laugh at the beginning. Buff Sailor Man Popeye arrives at an awkward seaside town called Sweet Haven. There, he meets Wimpy, a hamburger-loving man, Olive Oil, the soon-to-be love of his life, and Bluto, a large, mean pirate who is out to make Sweet Haven pay for no good reason. Popeye also discovers his long-lost Pappy in the middle of it all. So the band of his new friends, Popeye heads off to stop Bluto, and he's got the power of spinach for Popeye to test to bust Bluto right in the mouth.
Watch as Popeye is going off the rails.
With punks in a burger joint, stops a greedy taxman, takes down a champion boxer, and even finds abandoned baby Sweet Pea. He's strong to the finish.
Oh, God. Butler, this podcast is only an hour long. What are you doing to me? Dear God. Feel free to ignore that. Popeye has a runtime of 114 minutes.
Feel free to ignore this episode.
No. That's not fair. Rated PG. Production budget of $20 million. Release date was Friday, December 12th, 1980, which kind of surprised me. It was a holiday film. Mm-hmm. Opening weekend, it did $6.3 million. Domestic, $49.8, and worldwide, $60 million. And I don't have the numbers, but everything I read said that it did very well at the home video sales as well. And
yes,
it is considered now, Butler, to be a cult classic. So whatever vitriol you're going to throw at it, which I understand, it is still considered. It is widely received by children because it's a children's movie.
Is it widely received?
Even though they say, even though you can hear Robin Williams say shit in the end of the movie, but yeah,
you're like the first Disney movie to ever allow it.
Production company was Paramount Pictures, which they shared it with Walt Disney Productions and Robert Evans Productions. He is the producer on this. Distributed by Paramount Pictures in North America and Buena Vista International Distribution internationally, which is
AKA the mouse,
which is Disney. Yeah, well, everything's the mouse these days. Came out on the 12th of December. Went up against in a wide release Stir Crazy. That's the film with Richard Pryor and Gene Wilder. Okay. I didn't know if you were disagreeing with you there.
No, I like Stir Crazy.
The following week, the 19th is the Friday, but the Wednesday, the 17th, you had Any Which Way You Can. And then on the 19th, in a limited release, you had 9 to 5, The Formula, A Change of Seasons, and Seems Like Old Times. So I think that's pretty much your holiday slate there a little bit. I don't know if holiday films back in the 80s and 70s, late 80s, early 80s, before the blockbusters. Well, this is kind of in the middle of blockbusters. Mm-hmm. If holiday films were really
big.
Yeah. If they were really like how they are now, like you would always get a Star Wars film around the holiday season. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. It's probably the start of like them figuring it all out.
Maybe. Yep. The 5th of December, which is the week before, you had a limited release of Flash Gordon, which I kind of like, but I know, that's another one that's considered a cult classic. Yeah. Yep, absolutely. This film was directed by Robert Altman. Do you know Robert Altman? Because I don't know if we've ever had conversations about Altman.
I know a couple of things he's done. I don't know a lot that he's done. It looks like he's very up or down in terms of his filmography. I've seen Gosford Park.
Yes. Well, he was nominated for an Oscar for Gosford Park, as well as MASH, the movie MASH, not the TV show. Nashville, The Player, and Shortcuts. All of those are films that he was nominated for Best Director. He never won, but he did win an honorary Oscar in 2006, actually the same year he passed away, which is pretty sad. But Robert Altman, the movies of The Player is really good. Gosford Park's obviously really good. MASH, the original MASH is good, but his style is very much rooted in the script as a blueprint.
Right.
So I shouldn't say the script is a blueprint. That's not right. It's more that if you were going to not improvise, but if everything was in his head mostly. Right. So does that make sense? So if you came in with, you started ad-libbing, you had a bunch of ideas, it might not fit with what he wants. So it might not be as acceptable. You might butt heads.
Right.
Kind of thing. Yeah. This movie's written by Jules Pfeiffer, who's done Little Murders, but and he's worked on he's more known for two things. One, he's a cartoonist for the Village Voice. And then I think after the war, after World War II or Vietnam, I'm not sure. He worked on the Spirit comic strip with Will Eisner. Cinematographer was Giuseppe Rotuno, who was nominated for an Oscar for All That Jazz. He also did Red Sonja and The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, regarding Henry Wolf, and the 1995 Sabrina. So a little bit of a lot of stuff going on there. There's no composer, but music and lyrics were Henry Nilsson. And he's got, if you go back, well, he's got a ton of credits. He's more of a musician, but the song One from Magnolia that Amy Mann sings. Yeah, that's his original song. He wrote that, and it's his song. He also did Everybody's Talking from Midnight Cowboy, Jump Into the Fire, that was in Goodfellas, Spaceman, it was in Contact. So you have heard his songs. You may not have heard his recordings of the songs, but you have heard his songs.
Okay.
Edited by two people, John W. Holmes and David A. Simons. Holmes has nominated for an Oscar for the Dramatistian. He also edited a movie called Diamonds Are Forever, Butler. So a little James Bond there for you. Ooh. I said Simons, but it's actually Simmons. Simmons is an assistant editor on and Justice for All, Krippendorf's Tribe, and The Best Little Whorehouse in Texas. I laugh because Krippendorf's Tribe does not age well. Produced by Robert Evans, like I said before. He was nominated for an Oscar for Chinatown. He also had produced Marathon Man, Black Sunday, and two movies that we did, Butler, The Phantom and The Two Jakes.
Ooh. I also didn't realize Harry Nilsson did the Gotta Get Up song that plays in Russian Doll every time she gets up.
Yep. Well, yeah. You can skip the second season.
You keep telling me. I'll still watch it just to try it out.
So Robin Williams, in his first starring role, plays Popeye. He won an Oscar for Good Will Hunting. He was also nominated for Oscars in The Fisher King, Dead Poets Society, and Good Morning Vietnam. Shelley Duval plays Olive Oil. She's from The Shining, Annie Hall, McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and Home Fries. Ray Walston as Poop Deck Pappy. I think we should call you Poop Deck Pappy now. I think that should be your nickname for the show.
I don't know why, so I'm gonna.
I don't know why either. I like Poop Deck Pappy.
Poop Deck Pappy.
Walston's been in The Apartment, The Sting, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and Paint Your Wagon. Paul Dooley as Wimpy from 16 Candles. He's the father in 16 Candles. He's also in Breaking Away, the 2007 Hairspray, and he plays Sarge in the Cars trilogy. Paul L. Smith as Bluto from Maverick, the 1984 Dune, Midnight Express, and Red Sonja. Donald Moffat as the Taxman. You might remember him from The Thing or Clear and Present Danger, the old Potomac two-step. He's also in The Right Stuff and The Best of Times, which is an episode we did. Mm-hmm. Richard Libertini is Giesel, Fletch, All of Me, and Awakenings. He's one of the guys that stays with the Oils, one of the, I guess, the tenants, because they run a bed and breakfast. Mm-hmm. Roberta Maxwell as Nana Oil. She's from The Postman, the 1980 horror movie The Changeling, Brokeback Mountain, and Psycho 3. Donovan Scott as Castor Oil. I don't know if you remember him from Police Academy. He was the officer, like the short fat officer that was always getting in trouble, was always getting picked on by the criminals and stuff like that.
Oh, I vaguely recall. It's been a while since I've seen it, but yeah.
He's also in 1941 and The Best of Times, another one. Mm-hmm. Then you had a couple. If you knew who they were and you saw them, you were like, oh, they look really familiar. You had Linda Hunt, who was in this movie. She plays Mrs. Oxhart. This is her first starring role. You had Dennis Franz as one of the toughs. He played. They give him a name, Spike, but like he's just one of the toughs.
Yeah, he doesn't. Yeah.
And then Bill Irwin, who plays Ham Gravy, which I'm pretty sure you're seeing the beginnings of Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street. I don't know if you're aware of that. Bill Irwin played Mr. Noodle. One of the Noodle on the show. And was he before or after Michael Jeter? Was he after or before? I can't remember.
I think he might have been after.
Was he?
I'm not positive.
So if people have children out there, you might remember that. All right. So obviously this is based on...
Oh, he was after. He was way,
was he way
yeah,
after?
He was
yeah.
after.
He's obviously based on a comic. And before we did this podcast, Butler was complaining. And I was trying to tell him it's a kid's movie, it's a kid's movie, it's a kid's movie. But I understand his complaints and we'll get into them. I will say before we get into anything, I will say that Butler, this was nominated for 3 Stinker Awards.
I saw.
It's like, so
before the Razzies.
I was going to say, did the Stinkers become the Razzies or did the Stinkers die off and then the Razzies were born?
I think that the latter, yeah.
Yeah. Cause it's like I understand like, oh, you got a Stinker Award. I get that. But the name of the award show is the Stinkers Bad Movie Awards. That's the stupidest name. But anyways, so it was nominated for Worst Song, Which He Needs Me by Shelly Duval, which won. Worst Picture, which won. And Worst Actor was Robert Williams. He did not win. Sorry. So he didn't win. But I think that's a little harsh because of all the songs in the movie, I actually don't mind. I think He Needs Me is better than of all the songs in the movie. I know you don't like it.
It's better than most of the songs in the movie.
Obviously not the Popeye song, which they sing at the end, which is cool to hear. All right. So give me your thoughts. Give me your first impressions or however you want to go, wherever you want to start.
Oh,
it's not for kids. It is for kids. You didn't get it.
It's not for kids because it's too slow. It's too boring. It's too weird. The very first 30, 40 minutes is garbage. It just doesn't go anywhere. Let's start with the dubbing because the dubbing was what I had the biggest problem with.
Go ahead.
The dubbing is, and they say they had to redub all of Robert Williams' lines because he was doing his Popeye thing shtick, but with the pipe in his mouth. And they had to redub all. He
was mumbling, yes, and he was ad-libbing, which was a problem.
But guess what? Like, I still don't understand half the shit he's saying. Like,
it's very low. It's dubbed very low.
It is dubbed very low.
Yeah, very deep bassy.
It doesn't even try to match lips. And the music is clearly dubbed over, and they very seldom try to like show you people singing the songs.
Well, they were singing on set though.
But that's the thing, is like to the point where at the beginning, until they sang in the diner, I didn't think that it was meant to have music.
Mm-hmm.
And I was wondering if I was like, I haven't seen a single person sing. So was this not supposed to be a musical and they changed it partly half the way through?
No.
Until the diner song. And then I saw people actually singing the song. And I was like, okay. But it took me a while to figure that out. And I think that's partly the cinematography, partly how it's shot. If you don't show me people singing, I'm not going to think they're singing. And that just really throws me off.
So to answer that question, yes, it was going to be a musical because this movie got greenlit because Paramount was in a bidding war to get Annie.
And they lost.
And so they lost it. So then they had a huge meeting and Robert Evans basically was in this meeting. He's like, okay, what we need, what IP do you own? Obviously not saying IP at the time, but what do you own that we can make into a musical? What are we going to do? And someone there was like, well, how about we got Popeye? And they're like, okay, fine, let's do that. So it was always going to be a musical because of the loss of Annie.
Right.
So yes, it was going to be a musical. Now,
but coming into it, I did not know it was a musical.
But here's the thing, because you talk about on the podcast a lot of times, and I do too, how kids' movies are different back then than they are now. This is 40 years old.
Sure, yeah, all the time.
So trying to think about like a movie like Annie that they didn't get. Like Annie's obviously a classic. It's got great songs. So, but the seriousness of Annie is still kind of similar to Popeye in terms of just, it doesn't pander to children.
Yeah.
But it's basically like, well, we're not swearing. We're not saying anything bad. It's, you know what I mean? It's got a kid in it.
Yeah.
So, but still in Annie, they're trying to kill Annie at the end.
Yeah.
I mean, so I understand what you're saying. I don't think you can definitely feel that when the musical portions are happening, you feel like, look, this is like it's a musical, but we don't really want it to be a musical.
That's the thought I got. Yeah. It's very underwhelming in terms of the musical aspect.
There's no big numbers. There's standalone songs. They're very much like Nilsson stuff. It's just very like acoustic, almost acoustic to the point.
Yeah. They come out of nowhere. Some of them barely, like you said, barely have many notes to them.
The lyrics are just pretty much the same. Like the whole point when she's talking about Bluto, like we were joking on, she's large, like she kept saying large. Like I mean, I guess that's a style, but again, I'm thinking like also this is 1980. We're talking from the late 70s. This is what music is like back then.
I don't, because you have so many musicals from the 60s and stuff and the 50s and onward. And I just don't think that. And it's like they make her sing off key. They make almost everyone sing off key. Well, which is a weird choice.
Let me get to that. But before that, to answer your question, Annie's coming from Broadway.
Right.
Like Annie is a Broadway musical production that has songs that have giant arrangements. This is a movie that they're putting songs into.
I understand that, but you want to compete with Annie. You want to have something. You want to make your Annie.
I'm saying that I know, I get that, but I'm saying that they don't have the luxury of working upon music that's been worked on for years. That. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where I'm saying, but you're right. It feels very much, it's just a different style of musical that just doesn't work. Now, again, I say this, it's a kids movie. It's a kids movie. It clearly does work for kids because it became people still bought it when it was on home video and it was still popular. And
I don't think it became popular with kids. I think it became popular with adults that like the weirdness of it and go, no one likes this, so I'm gonna like it. It became popular for its weirdness and its absurdness.
Well, it is absurd. Like even when everybody in Sweet Haven is just doing like, because they went out and got people from European circuses to come in and play the background to do all the weird stuff in the background.
Right.
There's just a bunch of weirds like Bill Irwin's doing like I joke about how he's like discovering Mr. Noodle, but he is, because there's like when they push him down.
Oh, that's great. I like some of that stuff. There's a lot of like the cartoony stuff that is really, really good, but there's a lot of really boring, odd, just obscure stuff that you would only like if you like really strange French absurdist comedy, or if you were in film school and you're watching something and it just it doesn't always work, and there's not enough to really grab your attention, even for a 1970s or 80s kids film, to grab a child's attention and keep it there, because the beginning is so nothingness. There's nothing to grab you at the beginning. There's really nothing there.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it's gained a cult status is that absurdist type of feel to it that you're talking about, because it's not, and I'm going to go back to something that we always complain about, is it doesn't look like anything else that's out there. You know what I mean? It doesn't fit into one single box. It's not a generic studio. Everything looks good. Everything sounds good. You know what I mean? It's dirty. It's messy. I always talk about 70s films. And I love the dirt of the 70s. I love where nothing's perfect. And I think you can put that same moniker onto Popeye. Now, there is stuff in there that is distracting. There is stuff like you talk about Duval singing off key. But that's like, if the comic is like that, like Olive Oil is like that. There's a lot of things in this movie that are pulled straight from the comic.
Sure, but I don't want to hear her singing off key.
I understand that.
You want to sell albums, right?
I don't know. I don't know what they thought they were going to do after this.
Clearly, I mean, now that it's gained a cult status, they put out the album 4 other times, but like,
okay,
you still want to sell. Even back then, you want to sell your merchandise. You want to sell your album on cassette or 1980, maybe still record. You want to sell all this. You want to sell your Popeye t-shirts and your Olive Oil stuff. Why? Sure, she sings off key, or she talks off key and all weird in her Olive Oil accent when she's talking, but why not sing a little bit more on key or something that kind of worked with her? Like, none of these songs are songs that I'm just going to be like, they're stuck in my head now because I'm making fun of them kind of, but going on, I'm just going to go back to singing, you know, if I was like more into Broadway music, singing Annie, the sun will come out tomorrow. Or like now we got the Disney movie, singing a Disney movie song where it's a little different. It just doesn't match up. I mean, I think the main reason people buy this now and it's gained a cult status is definitely the set work.
Oh, the set's
look
fantastic.
Of the film. The look of the film is phenomenal.
I love the set.
But the rest of it just kind of meh. But I will say that once Popeye kind of opens up more with the town, it does open up into more absurdist comedy where the cartoon stuff works. But that whole beginning, the first 35 minutes, it's a really rough watch.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I don't.
Until Sweet Pea comes along, it's just kind of like, ooh.
Yeah, Sweet Pea's just crammed in there.
Sweet Pea is just like, hey, remember this baby from the cartoons? Let's put it in.
Well, the original script had Eugene the Jeep in it, which was Popeye's pet.
Right.
And Eugene's claim to fame was that he was prophetic. He could tell like that, and this he could pick the winners as Sweet Pea. So they gave it to Sweet Pea because they wrote him out. But could you imagine? It's almost. I wonder if you would look differently upon this film, and maybe other people look differently on this film if they just were like, you know what? If we're gonna get absurd, let's get extreme. Let's go all the way.
Bring the Jeep in it.
Yeah, I wonder if they did that, would it have been viewed differently back then? Because when it came out, it was ripped. Nobody liked it, although Siskel
and Ebert liked it,
but it was ripped. And then as people go back and look at it, there's actually an appreciation that's growing from it. And I think because it's so different, because it doesn't, like I say, fit into a form. But your critique is accurate. I can't argue with that.
Right.
I just think it's whether the sensibility of an audience member watching it, if they're okay with that, or if they, if I showed my kids this, they wouldn't like it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just because of what they've already been exposed to, the in terms of movies and kids shows and stuff like that.
I was exposed to mostly 70s and 80s stuff as a kid, and
sure.
I don't think I would really have gone back to this in the way that I liked Dick Tracy growing up. And it's
the movie.
The movie. And there's a lot of that kind of strange, absurdist, like old school kind of stuff in Dick Tracy as well. And I don't think Popeye does enough of that. There are moments in Popeye I do enjoy. There are moments that actually made me laugh and smile. But the overall ness of Popeye just isn't quite there. It should have been more like the cartoon, which I guess is more like the comic strip than cartoon.
It's more like the comic strip, yeah.
But there's just not enough. Popeye's almost more of an observer in his own movie.
Yeah.
To a point.
Well, and Dick Tracy is very vibrant with colors, and it's very bright, and it's very stylistic. So there's a lot of stuff going on in Dick Tracy movie, which we covered. So check that out in season whatever. There's a lot of stuff to really dig into on Dick Tracy. If oh my God, that looks great. Oh, I love the way that looked. A lot of action. Popeye doesn't have a lot of that. Popeye is just almost as is. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a documentary style, but it is. It's very like Robert Altman is very. It's probably not a visual director in terms of tricks in the camera, like Warren Beatty did for Dick Tracy.
Sure.
It's not like that. He's more like what's on screen, the character interactions, and maybe a few setups here and there. But the most of the money for this in the budget went to the set.
Went to Sweetwater, yeah.
Yeah.
The set looks amazing. Which I guess the set is still around today. You can visit, which I was surprised to hear.
Well, I didn't know too much about the backstory of the film. So I just assumed it was a lot. They built this at Paramount's lot.
Right.
Because I was like, that water must just be fake. They must be a tank. It must be some kind of tank. And then they actually, they went to Malta, the island of Malta. They built this entire thing.
Yep.
They actually built a 200 to 250 foot breakwater to prevent the harbor from getting flood during like the high water season. So, and it's still there. And it's got a school, a church, a cafeteria. Like it's got all this stuff.
Yep.
It's like and they those ships that are in the harbor are real ships that they bought and sunk and put them in there.
Well, not only bought but also rented and sunk.
I think the rented ones were probably already had holes in them. Yeah,
there we go. Because I was wondering, like, you can rent boats and then sink them.
So they basically bought it, sunk it, and they put it right in the harbor. No, it's a great. It's almost like if you go to Malta, you should go check if it's still there. I don't even know if it's still there now. Is it still there now? I
don't know how old that note was.
Yeah.
But it's called Popeye Town, I guess. So
that's fine.
There, yeah.
That's fine.
It's a really cool set. I have a lot of admiration and respect for the set. It's probably the only thing that kept me going for that first 30 minutes. It was just like, oh my God, the amount of detail and money they put in this little thing.
So I have a note on the set. So it was a construction crew of 165 who worked 7 months to construct the set. Tree trunk logs were driven across European continent from the Netherlands, and wood shingles were imported all the way from Canada. 8 tons of nails, 2,000 gallons of paint were used to complete the set. And when they finished, the fictional village of Sweet Haven consisted of 19 buildings, including a hotel, a schoolhouse, a store, a post office, a church, and a tavern. So yeah.
That's insane.
That's pretty wild. That's like, it looks like something like if you went down to Disney World And you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what it looks like.
The whole thing I was thinking was it looks like the comic strip park in Universal.
Yeah.
I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah. I'm surprised that despite like, you know, it's been 40 years and, you know, of Popeye, and everyone always remembers the Robin Williams of Popeye. I'm surprised that the set doesn't get much more love. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. When I think about Popeye, all I hear is how, this was the first time I ever actually saw it.
Right.
But all you hear of is Popeye. Like that, it starred Robin Williams.
So I had seen this movie before, and I think I saw it more than once, because what I remember before I watched it again, I always remember the ending. So the dance, the song at the end, I always remember like the fighting of the octopus, all that stuff. I always remember Bluto swimming away yellow. I remember the fight with Oxheart with the guy, and he knocks him over, and I always remember this thing going down.
Okay, yep.
I always remember that. And then I always kind of remembered when Wimpy steals the baby for Bluto. But that's it. I never I didn't remember too much about the opening and that whole through. I was not a big fan of Wimpy in this movie, only because he's
kind of a dick.
He is. My note for Wimpy was that he's, where's my note? Where is it? Oh, that he's not trustworthy. He's a gambler. He's a moocher, and he's a louse. And he basically sells the baby for a sack of burgers. Now I know that's supposed to be funny, but it's like, Wimpy's the bad person here.
Yeah.
Like, he is not good.
Wimpy in the comics, or maybe, I don't know about the comics. Wimpy in the cartoon would do anything he could to get a burger, and was, would cut a lie and steal burgers, would gladly pay you Tuesburger for a hamburger today.
Would gladly pay you Tuesday.
What did I say?
Tuesburger?
Would gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today. But like, he was always Popeye's friend. He would never steal Sweet Pea.
Right.
And stealing the Bluto. That's not the Wimpy that at least I know from the cartoon.
Yeah, you're funny. You're funny. When you said, Wimpy would do anything for a burger, I was like, how about get a job?
No, anything but get a job.
Yeah. So, and that leads me to my next point. So there's Wimpy, and then there's a moment when Wimpy takes Sweet Pea to gamble on the horses, which was funny because they're just the metal.
Oh,
horse.
the metal, yeah.
He takes him to gamble on the horses, and then Popeye's going there with the oil family to stop him. And the oil family and everyone else to stop him. He goes there. Never mind the fact that this is a brothel in the PG movie. We'll get past that. Goes there and he gets the baby and they walk out. But then Olive is like, oh, but wait a minute. He can pick the winners. And all of a sudden Olive takes Sweet Pea and they start gambling. And couple that with the fact that the whole time you first meet Olive, she's a brat. She's a big time brat.
Absolutely, yep.
And so I don't understand. There's never a moment where I see like that. I believe that Popeye would fall in love with Olive Oil because she has never apologized for the way she is.
No, it comes out of nowhere. It comes just out of the taking care of Sweet Pea in the conversation.
Well, if you see when he's in that scene when he grabs Sweet Pea and he does the "I am what I am" song,
I am what I am.
Whatever. When he takes Sweet Pea and he's singing and he's walking out. They never show Olive Oil's reaction, but if you watch her body language when you're behind her, she's doing the thing where she's like, oh, where she's putting her arms up. And she's like, oh, like she's in love with him, like she's falling in love. It's like, you're the one he's pulling him from. So I mean, I'm glad Altman didn't turn around and show me what she's doing because I could tell what she was doing. But,
right.
But you're the one that he's pulling Sweet Pea away from you and your family because you want to use Sweet Pea as a gambling tool.
Right. And
you're falling in love with him because of that, because, oh, he stood up to me.
He wants to be, well, that's the thing is like everyone's all about money and like she wants to use the money to save her family because she got taxed to death. Like they're going to lose their house.
Right.
But he says, and this is one of the lines I really like, wrong is wrong, even if it helps you.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's one of the parts where like I started to like the film a little bit. Like, there we go. Now we're getting into Popeye. Now the film is more focused on Popeye. He takes it and takes it and takes it until this moment in the film. And I just think it comes too late, where Popeye suddenly becomes the main character and takes charge in his own film. And once that happens, I'm like, okay. And that's where I start to warm up to the movie a little bit. Although it still has a lot of problems. I still like, all right, now it's a Popeye movie. Well, before it was kind of like Sweet Haven, the movie.
Well, Popeye is the only character in this movie. Well, maybe Bluto, but Popeye is the only character in this movie that stays true throughout. Like in terms of stays true to who he is throughout. He doesn't change.
Yes.
Even the whole town of Sweet Haven it treats Popeye like a jerk.
Yeah.
And he comes down to attend the engagement party and no one wants to talk to him. After he beat up those toughs in the bar because they were causing trouble with everybody, nobody says thanks for that.
Yep.
They all don't want to talk to him. There's huge jerks to him. Even though he jumps into the ring to defend castor oil and fight Oxheart, there's still jerks to him. And then he pushes the taxman and all of a sudden, like, yeah, it's like, I don't believe for a second that you're friends with him because something else could happen. You could just be like, oh, Popeye.
Exactly. Yeah. It took all that to make you actually kind of like this guy.
There's really a level of, like you talked about, the absurdist notion of the entire people of Sweet Haven. There's no explanation to the shift and when, in terms of how they feel about Popeye, even and then when they shift, you don't buy it that it would stay that way.
Right. It really is just like really, really strange that the whole thing, their relationship. And when they team up, it's like they're all cowards. No one wants to do anything. And then Sweet Pea and Olive Oil get kidnapped by Bluto. And then they all go with Popeye and the commissioner.
The Commodore,
rather.
Yeah.
The Commodore who's been taxing this whole time to try to steal the treasure.
The whole thing with Poop Deck Pappy and being the Commodore, I completely forgot about. And it just didn't make any sense. It was just a way to say, like, oh, he's the dad.
Yeah.
Like, why are you taxing this entire town? Why are you putting this entire town just putting them all in the poorhouse?
The only way to survive is money. It's only to be mean.
Yeah, but you're getting the money and you're living on this like boat that's half sinking.
Because he doesn't want the money. He just wants to be mean. He wants people to stay away from him. But it's just kind of comes out of nowhere. And then him helping Popeye, he doesn't care about the baby. But then at the end, when the octopus is about to kill the baby, he saves the baby.
Yeah, well, I mean, what are you gonna do?
From
I think it's just the end. Or when he throws the can of spinach at Popeye and he actually hits Robin Williams in the head and the production has to go down, has to delay for several weeks because he got stitches.
I read that. Was awesome.
Good job, Ray. But I was like, several weeks? That can't just be a random cut.
Yeah,
he must have been really injured. Like several weeks just for a couple stitches. I mean, I know it's 1980, but come on.
Yeah, and he was wearing the hat over his head, so you couldn't even hide it.
Something happened.
Yeah. That was bad.
Yeah.
The same thing with the end, although the end gets a little bit better. The spinach comes out at the very, very end, so too close to the end. Should have been a little earlier. And I feel like the buildup to him becoming Popeye is really hidden by the water. I don't know if I liked that bubbling water kind of.
You mean when he's underneath?
Yeah.
When Bluto does the thing where he puts the hand comes up, the arm comes up and punches him.
The arm just comes up and punches him. It's just like
once they get to the they all call it Devil's Island. Is that what do they call it? Skull Island or something?
I don't remember. Yeah.
Once they get there, it comes really quick. The ending just really happens.
But you don't give him his. I don't.
They do.
They kind of, but it's like so. They go like and then like another tune plays, and it's like then the water starts coming, and you don't get to see him really kind of like. Bloop, bloop, bloop,
well, he does. Like, he does the thing when he goes. He goes to the octopus and punches the octopus.
He does do the octopus with the spinning arms and everything, but it's all underwater. It's all a little. I felt underwhelming. I feel like the whole movie should have been leading up to the spinach moment.
It does. It doesn't hit for you.
I felt like I was like underwhelmed by the spinach moment.
Sure. I mean, they reference the spinach when he first goes into town to buy. He wants to buy the carrots.
Spinach was like 10 cents.
Yeah,
and he's like, no.
Yeah. And then they reference it again when he sees Poop Deck Pappy. I'm going to keep saying this. When they see Poop Deck Pappy, and they talk about the spinach again there.
Right.
And then, but that's towards the end. So you're right. So it doesn't really come into play later. I guess the spinach aspect was put into the comic strip later.
Yeah.
Didn't happen when it first started. So he always was strong, but he wasn't like super strong. That was put in later. So maybe that was what they were trying to do there in terms of not include it.
I'm okay with it only happening once, but it just should have been a bigger moment. Mm-hmm. That's my only thing. I was very underwhelmed.
Well, I mean, Butler, your opinion of the film was on par with, like I talked about how, the reaction of everybody about this movie.
Yeah.
This movie was so bad that it left Altman unemployable for a decade, and he had to go to Paris to make micro budget films. So you're pretty much on target there with your criticism. But there is a Blu-ray, came out 2020 for its 40th anniversary. So if you're interested,
go ahead and pick it up, guys. Tell me how it is. There's a couple things I like about it. I mean, obviously the set's amazing. There's a couple of lines I really like. I like the dad's whole, you owe me an apology, you owe me an apology. By I like it, I mean, I absolutely hated it until toward the end when he goes, I think we owe an apology. And like his line, she's like, all right, that's leading up to something. Mm-hmm. I also like, if my mom caught me here, she'd kill me. Oh, There's mom when they go into the race to the betting house.
Oh, right. Yeah. The caster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you know, speaking of the mom, so the name of the character is Nana Oil, and that is a play on a 1920s to 30s comment that people would say would be like, banana oil. And that was, which is supposed to express disbelief, like saying, yeah, right.
Right.
So I think we should bring that back. I think we should start saying banana oil.
Banana oil. The depression happens. And what does he do? He doesn't eat his spinach. That was a me pop. That was Coolidge. Oh, that was a good line, sir.
Do you think that was an ad lib by Williams?
Oh, I think so. Yeah. That was too good to be on par with the rest of the lines in this movie.
So would you have preferred Popeye to be played by Dustin Hoffman or Olive Oil to be played by Lily Tomlin?
I was, when I read Lily Tomlin, I was like, ooh, interesting. I like Shelley Duval here. I think she's a great Olive Oil, and I think she's got the look.
Do you think she's almost perfect as Olive Oil?
I do.
Yeah.
I think that Lily Tomlin, I would have been interested to watch. Like Shelley Duval, I just think hits all the right notes and has the look. She just looks, with her kind of like lanky figure, looks like Olive Oil and plays her very, very well.
Would you have liked Gilda Radner as Olive Oil? Because that was, the producers wanted Gilda Radner, but
I would
all
have
been held out for Duval.
I would have also been very interested in that. Although, again, Shelley Duval just looks like Olive Oil. I think Shelley Duval is pretty much made to play Olive Oil.
Right. Well, Radner turned it down because her agent was wary of having her spend. And this was shot from January to June in 1980. So it was like 4 or 5 months. And he was wary of having her on set for 4 or 5 months with Evans, who was, had some stories about him, and Altman, who also had stories as well.
Right.
And that's probably held out true because Evans was arrested during the production of this movie for trying to buy cocaine. So I mean, that could have probably been for a couple of people on the set.
I mean, it's good that the producers, the agent was looking out for her.
Well, that's a job.
You don't hear that very often.
And she was like pretty much a superstar at this point, coming from SNL. So
yeah, just right at SNL. I would have been more interested to see what Dustin Hoffman would have done with Popeye.
It would have been a different film,
but it would have been so different. And I think Robin Williams. I mean, if Robin Williams wasn't in this, let's be honest, I would have probably turned this off.
I'm not going to say that this made him a star, but this helped. This and Mork and Mindy.
Coming right off of Mork and Mindy, yeah.
Yeah, this kind of set. I mean, and he's not want to say he's perfect, but he's well cast. He's definitely.
Oh, he does the voice well and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, he's got the mannerisms down. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
I just don't think that the movie was strong enough for him.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he did go a little too hard on the stuttering, because it is kind of hard to understand him, even with the dub. It's just kind of like
it was. I was having I think one of my note was that I was having a hard time. His speech patterns were distracting me because I didn't understand what he was saying, and they were adding because because Popeye never can speak,
right?
I guess perfect English, if you will. But the way he was speaking was very distracting, and I didn't understand what was happening at times.
There's also a lot of times where he's trying to speak and you're trying to hear what Popeye's saying at the same time other people are talking, and they're all talking so fast and over each other. And again, I get that it's absurdist and that's what they're going for, but this isn't a complete absurdist film. You're not watching a David Lynch's Popeye.
Mm-hmm.
However, that is what it seems like for the first 35 minutes of the movie. And it's hard to catch on because it doesn't have a story for the first 35 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have a story until Sweet Pea appears. And Olive Oil has to make a choice on if she's going to stay with Pluto.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else really contributes to the story. You have Popeye says 10 minutes earlier, I'm looking for my dad, but he's not really looking for his dad.
Mm-hmm.
In no scene is he asking about him or anything like that. He's just in these weird different situations, and it's just situation after situation.
I found it interesting that they give this really long monologue to Walston at the end of the movie. When they first meet, the father and son meet, they give him this monologue
when they're on the boat going toward, and he's talking about being a dad.
Yeah, in the middle of this whole thing, it's like, okay, it's nice. He's not the lead. The monologue should, if you're going to give a monologue to somebody, if you're going to in a kid's movie, why are you not giving it to your lead?
Yeah. And the monologue is all about how being a father is awful because kids are bad.
Yeah.
But also, he abandoned Popeye at 2 years old.
Do you think that
They didn't give him all the toys in the world and all the stuff he talks about? That never happened.
Do you think that monologue is a monologue because Wilson couldn't sing and it was going to be a song and they just decided to have to do spoken word?
Oh, sure, maybe.
Yeah.
Or Harry Nilsson just couldn't figure out the song for it because the songs are terrible. Like, I honestly, it's really lazy. I don't like the songs.
Really?
I think the songs are all very lazily written.
I don't think that's true. I kind of, I'll disagree with that note respectfully. I think they're just, I don't think they're lazily written. I think they're a stylistic choice. I think that's the style because all the songs are very similar. So I just think that's the stylistic choice that Nilsson took. And if you hear his other music, there's not a lot of stuff where like it's like this movie where everything's repeating and stuff like that. Right. I just think that was a choice they made. Like they went out to Malta. Mm-hmm. They all went out to Malta and said that they had a recording studio built for them and then did all this stuff. I mean, he stopped working on something to do Popeye. Yeah. So, I mean, it's not like he was phoning it in. So I don't know if they'd be lazy. I just think he was going for something, and maybe it didn't work.
Right.
That's all. That's what I think. I don't think it's lazy.
But I don't think I think they just gave the dad a song because he's another main character who needs his own song.
I think there was definitely a studio, edict to make this a musical. So put music in this film as much as possible. I think that was definitely on the docket for them. So I'm just wondering if the Wilson monologue was meant to be a song and he was like, I can't sing. Well, just do spoken word, open music over.
The content of the musical should have been different anyway.
Yeah.
It just didn't make a lot of sense.
Well, maybe there was a song and they just didn't, and they opted for that. Maybe he had a song. But I mean, like Shelly Duval singing, you talk about out of key. Right. Who cares if Wilson sounds terrible? He's going to sound like Popeye anyway. So who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You give Popeye and Olive Oil a duet. Sailor.
Don't. You're not wrong. So let me get to some reviews then. Roger Ebert gave this film 3.5 out of 4 stars and said that Duval was born to play Olive Oil. And with Popeye, Altman had proved, quote, it is possible to take the broad strokes of a comic strip and turn them into sophisticated entertainment. And I'm going to guess you disagree with that.
Yes.
Gene Siskel also gave it 3.5 out of 4, writing that the first 30 minutes were tedious and totally without a point of view. There you go, Butler. Yep. But once Sweet Pea was introduced, quote, then the film, quote, then becomes quite entertaining and in a few scenes very special.
I more agree with Siskel, but he gave it too high a score. Because if the first 30 minutes of your movie aren't good, and it's more like the first 40 minutes, then that's a problem. Mm-hmm. That's not good. And also the end is also a little bit of a letdown as well. So it's a little bit of both. But I also read that I guess the end is kind of crap because they ran out of money.
Well, they ran out.
The set cost way too much.
Well, that's why the octopus didn't work, and you see it barely. They actually double up scenes with Duval because there's a moment where she's watching Sweet Pea. Octopus tentacles are coming up and pulling their boat down, and you think that Sweet Pea's gone, and they cut back to Olive Oil, and she's like, "Oh no!" But you see, if you look, you see a tentacle behind her, so that's from a different shot. So they definitely reused shots. Excuse me.
Well, I also read that he ran out of money beforehand because he already went over budget.
Yeah,
so
he ran over.
Pack it up. What do you got?
They ran over budget and ran over time, and they were like, "Come home."
Yeah.
Well, that's what happens. Leonard Maltin described the picture as a bomb. Quote, E.C. Segar's beloved sailorman boards a sinking ship in this astonishingly boring movie. A game cast does its best with a unfunny script, cluttered staging, and some alleged songs. Tune in a couple hours worth of Max Fleischer's cartoons instead. You'll be much better off.
Agreed. Also, how old is Leonard Maltin?
Old.
I didn't think he was that old, but yeah.
Wasn't he in when we did the movie Death Trap with Film Trace, the Film Trace podcast, which is coming out soon? Wasn't he one of the critics?
He was. So like between that and Popeye, I was like, because I read the Popeye thing too from him. I was just like, he's way older than I thought he was.
No, he's probably in his 80s right now.
I didn't know he was on par in the same age as like Ebert and Siskel. Yeah. I thought he was like a generation after that.
Oh, no. Yeah, they were more, but Maltin and Joel Siegel were like theater critics first.
Yeah, I didn't get that they were like on page like at the same time. Yeah.
And then finally, one more Butler for you. Vincent Canby of the New York Times called it a, quote, thoroughly charming, immensely appealing mess of a movie, often high-spirited and witty, occasionally pretentious and flat, sometimes robustly funny and frequently unintelligible. It is, in short, a very mixed bag.
I mean, yes, but it's not highly.
So you're saying it's a mixed bag, but you have a negative connotation on the movie.
It's a mixed bag and a bad.
Whereas some people and most of America think that. I'm just kidding. I think it's a mixed bag, but it's positive. So you do not see you don't have any kind of affinity towards it, and maybe that has to do with also maybe you're younger, you didn't grow up with it, so that might be part of it too.
I mean, I didn't grow up
these
with
people
it,
as well.
Like I said, I grew up with movies of like the 70s and 80s.
But you tell me all the time when I'm critical of movies and you're like, hey man, give me a break. I was 8 when it came out and now you still love them. That's what I'm saying.
I get it. If that's why you like it, that's fine. That's great.
I'm not that old. I'm saying, well, I am that old. But what I'm saying is that why some of these people are saying that they kind of enjoyed it, even though they had the same sentiment that you had, that it was mixed bag.
That's all. Yeah. It just, as a kid, the beginning is too boring.
Mm-hmm.
And then it picks up when the baby comes in and the slapstick comedy comes in, as opposed to the absurdist. If you wanted to go more absurd, go full David Lynch. Go crazy weird. Just go nuts.
Yes,
with this
David
thing.
Lynch's Popeye.
Give David Lynch a kid's movie. Like, go for it.
Olive Oil's ears been cut off.
You just get more of that
Popeye
monkey Netflix movie, which I also really like.
Oh, I didn't watch that. I didn't watch that.
You might like. It's only like 15 minutes long.
To quote you, I've got so many things I need to watch.
Fuck off.
Yeah, you fuck off. I've told you how many times to watch this stuff. You never watch it. All right. Why are we saying this is forgotten?
Because it's bad.
Oh, come on. That's not fair. You're not being fair. You're not being fair. You're not being fair.
All right. So a movie like this, you're gonna like Annie.
Yes.
I heard before I ever saw Annie, I heard the music before I watched the movie.
Of course.
Whereas with Popeye, you're not going to hear the music first because the music is either accidentally or purposely.
You might hear "He Needs Me."
Weird.
You might hear "He Needs Me."
I think I've heard bits of that. I know I have heard bits of "I Am What I Am."
Well, you know the original Popeye song. Everyone will
obviously Popeye the Sailor Man.
He needs me. Maybe I am what I am. Yeah, but that's about it. Because I don't. All the other songs I just didn't remember.
No, I guess there are 3 or 4 other songs they just didn't put in the movie too.
Well, where are they going to fit them? Was it Wimpy song? I like hamburgers. I wouldn't have mind a Wimpy. I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
Awesome,
I would have been okay with that song if he wasn't such a dick.
Does he actually say that line? Because I don't think I remember hearing it.
He does say that line because he says it. He says it when he gets it from the chef in the calf in the morning because he goes. Okay, he says that to him. Yes.
Tuesday, okay.
But yeah, no, that's his like big line. And there should be a song around that.
Yep. Yeah. So like you don't hear like there's a lot of music that you don't really hear anymore. So there's nothing to really draw you into the movie. There's no really big stars. I mean, Shelley Duval, but you think of The Shining when you think of Shelley Duval. That's pretty much it. And then you think of Robin Williams is the only other really big star there. And if you're going to think of a kid's movie with Robin Williams, you're thinking of Hook, probably.
Well, Hook's a better film.
Yeah. Or any of the other countless movies he's done. And
Patch
if you're thinking
Adams.
of something even back then, I've actually never seen Patch Adams.
It's okay. Yeah. You're okay if you don't see it. it's like all right.
But I think that, especially in 1980, if you think of Robin Williams back then, you're going to think of Mork and Mindy.
Well, that's
some of
his
his
thing,
TV stuff back then,
and his stand up.
Yeah, it's just tough to really like go to Popeye in general.
Well, he would never, when he was alive, he rest in peace. He would never talk about Popeye. He always
he joked about.
He always would bring up Popeye and Mork and Mindy complaining about him, but then he would say like I don't want to talk about him, but then he would. So
yeah,
who knows? Well, it's like Tom Hanks disavowing all his earlier comedy stuff,
all of his comedy,
which is stupid. I mean, come on. I mean, I get it. Splash is problematic, but the money pit's fine.
So yeah, I think that hurts it. I think the fact that Popeye in and of itself is an older cartoon. I don't think a lot of have your kids ever watched the Popeye?
No,
cartoon?
There's a definite disconnect with the Popeye IP now. And that's only because there's whether a level of interest for people to do it in terms of for a studio to come out with it again or somebody to do another cartoon, because Scooby-Doo is old and Scooby-Doo keeps coming out.
That's
because the IP is strong, because it proves, well, I think Popeye is a Depression era comic. It's very tough to just explain that, why is everyone so poor? Why
is Popeye so dumb?
Granted, inflation is up and through the roof now. Maybe you could bring Popeye back for 2022, but I think that there's definitely, you would have to introduce Popeye again. I know there was a movie a while ago that came out. I can't remember when, but there was something that came out a while, like 20 years ago, maybe.
There was a long time ago something.
It would have to be reborn again and have to be recreated, rebooted, if you will, just changed. Like stuff would just have to be straight up changed.
Right.
To kind of bring Popeye's character back again. But like, can kids really relate to a sailor man? Like now, like it would just be difficult to do. And maybe listen, some stuff is of the age, and maybe Popeye will just be a historical comic that in and of its time, that's where it thrived and
worked,
and that's it. We move on. I mean, that's pretty much, sometimes that happens. I mean, that's not a bad thing. It's just, it is what it is. He says because he is.
I am what I am.
Exactly. I think you're right, though. I think part of what I just said is probably goes into why it's forgotten. I think because it's not, I think, you want to show kids films. You're really not going to show them Popeye because Popeye doesn't feel like a kid's film, like we just talked about. So it's not a film that's going to get replayed for people. It's a film that people like us who maybe watch films or grew up with it. Oh, I remember watching Popeye. Let's watch it again. You might introduce it. But I think you're right. I think it's forgotten for a lot of valid reasons. And I really don't know if it would ever come back into like, the general pop culture.
Yeah. No.
Unless somebody reimagines the entire thing. I mean, what would you like? Again, he wouldn't be a sailorman anymore. He'd be something else. Like, like Popeye the interior decorator. I don't know. Like he'd be just like,
I feel like you could still make him a sailor.
I just don't.
Him a fisherman.
That's not really like
his outfit had to change though. Couldn't have the pipe. Definitely can't have the pipe anymore.
When he comes, so he's wearing the raincoat in the beginning because they're hiding his arms because they didn't have the arms ready yet.
Yeah,
which I thought the arms looked good.
The arms look good. There was one moment where he raises them up where I could see where they were connected.
Yeah,
but other than that, they were good looking arms.
But when he gets off the dock and he's wearing the raincoat, I'm thinking like I know what you did last summer. Like I'm thinking that. Which I would have been all right with though. Popeye just starts killing people. Ham Gravy comes up going, hey, and he's just like, and he puts a hook in his head. Yeah, that would have been great. That'd be a good movie. There we go. Popeye's a horror.
Popeye's a horror movie?
There we do. We rebooted as Popeye's a horror.
You gotta wait till the rights expire.
I'm on it. Oh, like the Winnie the Pooh.
Like the Winnie the Pooh horror movie that's coming out?
That's so stupid. That's so just like, come on. Like you better be really good because all you've got going for yourself right now is the shtick that it's Winnie the Pooh.
That's right. Have you seen the 2 screenshots that came out?
They look terrible. They look terrible. Yeah. Anyways, all right, where can people find us? You can find us at ForgottenCinemaPodcast.com or ForgottenEntertainment.com, as we are part of the Forgotten Entertainment family. While you're there, check out all the other great podcasts and shows we got for you there. You can also find us all over the social medias. Check us out on The Lobby. Did you blank on that?
Forgotten Cinema's The Lobby, where you can hear us talk about all the things. What do you guys think of Popeye? I'm sure all you guys loved it. So you can talk to us about it there. Again, you can also listen to us on any podcast platform you're on. You listen to us right now, so why don't you give us a like, review, subscribe, all that kind of good stuff. All right, and then join us next week for, I don't know, because I didn't look it up while Butler was doing it. Right, hang on. And join us next week where we're going forward 2007 for the movie Eastern Promises, a gangster film that Butler's never seen. Directed by David Cronenberg, written by Stephen Knight. So let's see if Butler's into this. I do like Cronenberg and Stephen Knight. Right? And Viggo Mortensen. That's right. Viggo Mortensen's in this. That's right. And so's Naomi Watts. So, and a lot of nudity. Male nudity. Oh, yeah. Get ready. Get ready for you seeing Viggo Mortensen like you've never seen him before. Aragorn's true sword. Next week. Butler, why do you think it's forgotten? I'll tell you why it's not forgotten, Mike. I am what I am, Field. Podcast takes a turn. Probably get more views that way, Butler. So maybe you should come out. All right, that's next week. Eastern Promises. Until then, have a great week, everyone. I'm Mike Field. I'm Mike Butler, and this has been Forgotten Cinema. That's all I got.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Elise.
Hosts of Crack One Open with Mike and Elise.
A podcast about brews, news, and pop culture reviews.
Every Friday, we choose a new craft beer from a different brewery and talk about
the history of the beer,
what's in it,
how it was made,
the history of the brewery,
along with tasting notes and more fun facts.
After that, come chill with us as we bring you the latest in pop culture news and reviews.
So check out Kraken When Open, part of the Forgotten Entertainment family.